For a romantic dinner, a couple took a small airplane for a quick flight to the countryside and then returned home. The plane flew a total of 4 hours, and each way the trip was 200 miles. The plane was flying with the wind and then against the wind. If the plane was flying at 125 miles per hour, what was the speed of the wind that affected the plane? Okay, so this is a question about distance and speed and all that. And when you have a question about speed and distance, the most important formula that you have to know is that speed is measured as distance divided by time, which, by the way, is really apparent right here in miles per hour. So we call the speed of a car or an airplane in miles per hour, and miles is the distance it covers, and per means division, and hour is the time, so you're dividing the distance by the hour. So that's a very fundamental equation. However, there's two other things that you should know. First, you can multiply by time both sides, and you can say s, which is the speed, times time gives you distance. Also, if you take this equation and divide by the speed, you can also say time is equals to distance divided by speed. So there are two other formulas that comes from this just by multiplying by time both sides and then dividing by s. And if you read a question, you see that there are two kinds of speeds involved. So when you're going to someplace, the speed was 125 miles plus the wind speed. I don't know, let's just say x. But when coming back, you're going against the wind, so the speed slowed down by x. And then the question is, you want to find how long it took, and the sum of the time it took should be 4 hours. So you want to use this and say, oh, by the way, the distance is 200, so time going is distance divided by the speed, which is 125 plus x, right? Time is distance over speed, so distance divided by speed, that's the time they spent going to the place. Time coming back would be the same distance, 200, but this time, because they're going against the wind, it's going to take longer time. And what we know is that the sum of the two times gives you 4 hours, so you end up having this plus the other time equals to 4 hours. So we have to solve this rational equation. It looks very scary, but remember, whenever you have a fraction for an equation, we can multiply by the denominator both sides, and that results in an equation that doesn't have any fractions. So let me show you what I mean by that. I want to multiply 125 plus x to every one of these terms, because if I do that, then this and this will cancel away, and I'll not see any of this denominator anymore. Okay, so the basic mantra is that we hate fractions. So if we can get rid of the fractions, we'll get rid of them. Okay. Now, furthermore, I want to multiply by 125 minus x, because if I do that, then this denominator will go away. So that's what I'm going to multiply to every term. So you see what I'm doing. I'm multiplying this thing, this much, to every term, 1, 2, 3, all these three terms are multiplied by 125 plus x times 125 minus x. And the result is that you have 125 plus x canceled with this one. 125 minus x will be canceled with this one. And after getting rid of those annoying fractions, now we have from the first one it's 125 minus x, 200 times 125 minus x. From the second one is 200 times 125 plus x equals to, and this one you can FOIL it out, but you also remember that this is like what is it, the difference of two squares. If you have sum and a difference, that's difference of two squares, right? So it's 4 times 125 squared minus x. And what's 125 times 125? Let's see. We have 125 times 5 times 5 is 25, times 5 times 2 is 10, but 2 comes down, 5 times 1 is 5, so we have 625. 2 times 5 is 0, and then 2 times 2 is 4, but there's a carryover, so that's 5. 2 times 1 is 2, and then 125. So if I add them up, I get, let's see, I get on the right side, I get 4 times 1, 5, 6, 2, 5 minus x. Okay, minus x squared. Sorry about that. That's, some of you may have been asking why there's no squared here. Okay, so that's what we have. On the left side, if I distribute the 200 times 125 would be 25000, and then minus 200x plus 25000 plus 200x, and lucky for us, we actually see that this cancels. Oh, sorry. Let's get out. Okay. We see that this cancels. And the resulting equation is we have 50000 equals to 4 times 15625 minus x squared. And then if you divide by 4, this is 12500 equals to 15625 minus x squared. Let's move the negative x squared to the left side and subtract this to the right side. And the result is x squared is equal to 15625 minus 12500. And what's that? That's x squared equals to 3125. Okay, 3125. And well, so the answer for x is square root of 3125. What is it? Well, you see that this thing is divisible by 25. So if I take 3125 and divide it by 5, it's 5 times 6 is 30, so, and then 5 times 2 is 10, and then 5 times 5, yeah, so that's what we have. And 625 is 5 times 125, and 125 is 5 times 25, 5 times 5. Okay, so you see that this thing is square root of 5 to the 5th power, and every 25s, 5 times 5 is 25, 5 times 5 is 25. Those come out as 5, so since we have 2 of those, those two come out, and there's one left out. So 25 times square root of 5. And that's the answer. Let's move on to the second question. The second question is a lot easier. Find two consecutive odd numbers whose product is 255. Well, if you have an odd number, what's the relationship between the next consecutive odd numbers? Okay, so to think about that, you should think about some examples. So think about 9. What's the next consecutive odd number? Well, the next odd number is 11, right? And the relationship between the two is that if you call the first number as x, the next one will be 2 more than x, right? So we can call any two consecutive odd numbers can be written as x and x plus 2 for some x. Okay. And if you notice that, then the equation is very easy to solve. It's x times x plus 2 equals to 255. X times x is x squared, 2 times x, and then you can subtract the 255 to the right side. And by the way, this one will be actually easier to solve by not moving it to this side, but leave it like this, and just use completing the square, because x squared plus 2x plus 1 is x plus 1 squared, right? So I think the easiest way to solve this equation is by adding 1 both sides. 255 plus 1 is 256. And then realizing the left side is x plus 1 squared. And 256 is same as 16 squared. Now you can take the square root both sides. You can take the square root both sides, which gives you x plus 1 equals to plus or minus of 16. Because square root of 16 squared will be 16, but be sure to always put plus or minus when you're taking away the square. And therefore the two solutions is x equals to negative 1 plus or minus 16, which is negative 17 or positive 15. So there are two answers. One answer is you have x plus 2. One answer is that you have negative 17 and negative 15. Another answer will be 15 and 17. So that's how you figure this out.